So the Jacob Collier new record, The Light for Days, is out as of today, October 10th, 2025. Maybe you've had a chance to listen to it, maybe you haven't. I wanted to share a few reflections upon my getting intimately familiar with the record. Because if you've gone down the rabbit hole before of listening to Jacob's productions and what he can do in the studio, in addition to live, you've heard all this maximalist kind of thing that he's been branded with, you playing everything under the sun, mixing genres, doing all these things. That this record is the opposite. And I just wanted to share some reflections on why I think that. I mean, and what I hear. I'm curious to hear what you hear. Because all the things that came before, many of the things, most of the things that came before are these massive things that really kind of stretch our brain to see all the different directions that he can go, that music can go, doing things that are unexpected. This record is intimate, it's raw, it's organic, it's just Jacob in a room primarily on a single instrument, and it just made me love it all the more. In addition to, in contrast to the maximalist approach, this record has the most restraint I've ever heard out of a Jacob production. So, and I say that like, I love solo artists. I love hearing what one person is capable of. It's like live, or just out of their brain without relying on a much larger production. Now, granted, this is not a solo guitar voice production, but me as a singer-songwriter and guitarist myself, that's what I love to hear, because I can get lost in the production, honestly. It's sometimes the band productions or the studio records, there's so much going on, and yes, there's all these big musical moments that I can hear. It's like, okay, here we go, we're going somewhere, but I can't really unpack it because there's just like too much going on. I don't have an advanced music degree, I don't have perfect pitch, but I love to hear intimate, a finger-picked guitar, and because it's the language that I understand. And because of that, I've spent the last couple of years studying and transcribing Jacob's music, because I wanted to learn again. It reminds me of when I was in my 20s and I would hear some artists for the first time going, I've never heard anybody do that, I want to understand it. I even told Jacob once on a Patreon call that I've been playing guitar and altered tunings longer than he's been alive. Now that's sad, but true. But there's just something so unique, and I told him that I've just never heard this kind of voice leading before, and just it's a really refreshing approach. So some of my first impressions about this record is that it's full of the stuff that I've kind of mentioned already that I absolutely love, these rich guitar arrangements, and the fact that he's limited himself to just primarily one instrument, the Taylor Guitar's signature model Jacob Collier 5-string, which I have here and absolutely love it. And you know, this is so different from what he has done before, because if you go back to thinking about his debut record, the In My Room production, that's just him in his room. That's exactly the way this record was made. But here he didn't give himself access to all the other instruments to do all the things, because at that stage he was introducing himself, what he's capable of. And I don't think that was his thought process necessarily. I have to show what I'm capable of. Jacob was being Jacob. And this record, Jacob is still being Jacob, but with some years of separation and all the things that he's done and tried and experimented with over the last 10 years, it's kind of a new side of him. Now, the creation or the start of this project started, Jacob told us on a Patreon Zoom call that back in this past spring of 2025, I believe it was maybe in May, he played the song You Can Close Your Eyes by James Taylor on the Patreon call. And later that day, he said that he decided, maybe I'll try to make a recording of this and just see where it goes. And that was what turned into him spending 4 days recording one song after another in this very spontaneous fashion, where which very much being very intuitive, had to be very intuitive about it, because he wasn't doing things 100 different ways and making multiple different versions. And it's reminded me a lot of the way he did the I Harm You project a number of years ago, back in 2016, 2017, where people would send in these short snippets of melodies, and he would on the spot basically come up with these harmonies and arrangements and maybe add some instruments. And so it was a lot of like this improvisational yes and philosophy of going, okay, what can I do next? Oh, and if I do that, what can I do next? And just layering. Now this record doesn't have an incredible amount of layers. Oftentimes we do hear maybe up to 3 or maybe up to 5 guitar layers of him adding. Now the 5-string is the primary instrument, and we get an occasional 10-string guitar, a little bit of bass, a little bit of piano on one song. But the thing that I love the most that I get to hear on this record that you don't hear on any other record is the room. Jacob is kind of gathered around this stereo ribbon mic, which has this nice warm hiss to it, and his Neumann 87 that he always uses, and you can hear him shuffling in the room. You can hear his foot tapping on the floor of that wooden floor in his studio in London that we've gotten to know so well over the years from all his other videos of seeing him in there. And there's a lyric in one of the songs that I think actually kind of describes the record. And the lyric is "naked as a fallen bird." And I really feel like Jacob has allowed us to hear things as naked as possible on this record, and it's really, really wonderful. Now there's 6 originals, there's 5 covers. The covers are by the Beatles, James Taylor, the Beach Boys, the Staves, and John Martin. And of all four of the 5 of those all have pretty significant ties to London. In a way, I feel like he's kind of tipping his hat to that lineage of music that's come, through London before his time. And the Beach Boys one, he had released before he'd even announced that there was a record coming. He released "Keep an Eye on Summer," and sadly, it was like 2 months after Brian Wilson had passed. And to me, it was a big tipping of the hat, or like, an homage, a kind of a reverent tipping of the hat to Brian Wilson. And so I certainly hope Brian got a chance to hear that before he passed. But when he released the first single that we knew was a part of an album was "I Know a Little." And that was our first chance to kind of see the intimacy or hear the intimacy that he's put into this record. And I'm really curious what songs, if you've listened to the record, like what songs stood out to you first? And what surprised you the most about it? Because right now, my current favorite song is the "Heaven Butterflies," which he just released as another single a couple days ago. Prior to the release of the album, you'll be hearing this video later. That it'll be an older release for you. But it's that song. It's just the beauty of it, the flow of it, the bridge of it is incredible. And that's like. Yeah, it's like just one of the high moments for me. And I'm going to be breaking down these songs in the future, and there's a link in the description for all my other Jacob Collier playlists, or all my other Jacob Collier guitar tutorials. But because this is not a tutorial, and I'm not going to try to get all guitar-y on you for those of you who are not guitar players, but there are a couple things that I think bear mentioning that make what Jacob does so signature on this 5-string. Now, so the 5-string, on all the songs he's playing in his kind of 2 signature tunings, the D-A-E-A-D or the D-A-E-A-E tunings. All the songs are in that. That is exclusively kind of what he plays on that guitar. And what makes it unique is an alter-tuning guitar, 5 strings or not, alter-tuning guitar has a certain sound to it that is just, it's very rich. It's a lot of ringing extra notes that kind of float over the top of chords, and that is part of the palette that me as an artist myself has been so accustomed to and enjoys so much about the instrument. But the other thing that Jacob does that is so unique is that he plays the guitar more like it's a piano. Now, guitar players learn chord shapes and they jump all around, and this is a generalization here, but Jacob does a lot of voice leading where he's only making shifts of 1 or 2 notes in a chord to more fluidly move from one chord to the next. And that was what was so new and refreshing to my ear. And because to me, he's not approaching it as a guitar player. It's not his primary instrument. He's approaching it as a musician, as a piano player, as a vocal arranger. How do you make parts not necessarily singable, but just fluid, where all the voices are kind of weaving together independently? And that is what is just so incredibly magical to me. Now, the other thing, I've already mentioned it a little bit, is that the incredible amount of restraint. We've heard on Jacob's records what he is capable of, what he can hear, that sometimes we feel like, I don't even know how he gets there. But what he hears and what he can do, what we know that he can do. This album has an incredible amount of restraint. Now, most of the songs are pretty simple structures. There's not a lot of huge leaps of surprises. Out of the 11 songs, only 3 of them even modulate, and one of those is the Beach Boys song that already had the modulations in the original version. So it's not Jacob kind of like shooting us to the moon just because he can, but he's applying his aesthetic to that song in particular, and we get to just kind of benefit from hearing this new palette on the 5-string guitar. But this restraint that he has is that because these other songs are not making these huge leaps, and they're just the songs just kind of unfold and they don't jar us. And most of the jarring that I get from when I listen to Jacob's music is an exciting one, like what just happened. And there are moments like that that we love about Jacob that are all over this record. But it's like the minimalism to the opposite side of the maximalism that we've heard on other records. It's like the yin to the yang. It's this rebalancing of how to present beautiful harmonic content without it needing to be, but I mean, it's like how little it actually takes to be breathtaking. And that is a huge kind of reframing of what we have come to expect and love about Jacob. This record is just full of, instead of the Jesse records showing us what is possible, to me, The Light for Days shows us what is necessary, meaning for the sake of these particular songs. Now, I will give you one spoiler. There is one microtonal moment on the record, on the whole record, one that I've noticed. Let me know in the comments when you find where that is. It's pretty brief, but it's a neat little moment. But it got me to reflect on all these things that Jacob's doing differently on this record. And it got me to reflect on an experiment that I did a number of months ago, where from all the things that I've been steeping myself in about the way that Jacob approaches the guitar and arranges for the guitar and the voice leading and the chord inversions, I took a Leonard Cohen song, it's called Everybody Knows, and wanted to apply that aesthetic, I guess we could call it, that vocabulary that I had been learning. And I wanted to do it because, it's like when you're trying to learn a new language, you can learn how to write it, you can learn how to read it, maybe you can conjugate the verbs correct, maybe not, and even if you don't, people can still kind of understand what you're trying to say. But until you live in that native tongue, so to speak, or try to exist in it, try to dream in it, is that it's really hard to have it become intuitive. And I'm a long way from having it be intuitive to me, but I feel like I'm getting more familiar with the language, and it was because of these songs. This Leonard Cohen song, I also did this to Danny Boy, and there's links in the description below that of those versions if you're interested in hearing them. But it was me trying to figure out what are the jumping off points? How do I start to use this in a way that is just applicable and beneficial to the song or to the arrangement? And I took the Everybody Knows song. Originally starts with 7 chords, and it's got a couple chords that are outside of the key, and so it was a nice jumping off point. But it was pretty repetitive throughout. So I took it and I found that I took 7 chords, and after applying inversions and 2 modulations, and a couple other quirky little things that I turned into 61 chord voicings. Now, is that necessary? No. Is it overboard? Yeah, quite possibly. Most of Jacob's songs at most get up into maybe the 30s in terms of the amount of chord voicings. So this was me kind of going over the top. It's like getting a new effect pedal, and you're like, I'm going to crank it all the way up and see what I can get away with and see what it does and learn all the different sounds that are there. And then at some point you filter through and you figure out how to be more tasteful about it. But it really kind of left me with the idea that hearing The Light for Days and the songs and how grounded and intentional and vulnerable things can be, and that less is more. There's a time and place for the more, and The Light for Days is the time and place for less. Because Jacob doesn't have anything to prove to us. He really doesn't. We know what he's capable of. And we still hear all the things that we love about Jacob in this, even though it is so stripped back. It is a little scrappy, but it is complete. And it is exactly what it needs to be. I still feel, I will always feel that, well, who knows what will come in the future, which is what we're all excited about, is that this to date is his most organic, most human, most perfectly imperfect production album. There's so much heart in the quiet moments. There's a suffering in Something Heavy. There's vulnerability in Where Did My Apple Fall? There's surrealism in Tom Thumb. And Jacob's not trying to prove anything. He's really just serving the song. And we get to benefit from that. We get to enjoy what we love about Jacob, and we get to be reminded that we don't have to do everything under the sun in order to make a song beautiful. And Jacob's also known for, I see him as a very humble person. His humility, I think, is when you look at the album cover alone, it's his face, and you see the text on there. The smallest font, almost unreadable, very small, is his name, Jacob Collier. And I think that kind of says it all.